It's me. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. It's Freedom Family Friday, which means it's not Freedom Family Friday unless we bring in my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wifey, Stephanie. How you doing?
Hello, I'm good. We don't have Hazel today.
No, I've been, I have to stay at least 25 feet away as often as possible from Hazel, which is...
Yeah, this is the last day that we won't have Hazel because my mom is going back to Michigan this weekend.
It's been a really challenging week. Still feeling kind of iffy. A lot of things are conspiring to piss me off this morning. There's flies all over the place this morning. So if you see us going like this, or if I'm just randomly smack the computer or something like that, the stream goes down, it's because, these flies, they're all over the freaking place. Anyways, sorry. I'll try not to act too annoyed about it. Trying to give you a little bit of energy. Thanks so much for the Rumble Rant donations already, guys. You're amazing.
Oh my goodness. It's money for pest control.
We're here. We're ready to rock. We've got a lot to talk about this week. Man, every single day there was something going on in the news, and I was I would wake up at 4:30 a.m., be like, the election, I gotta talk about it, and then I'd take my temperature and I'd just go back downhill. The sweats, the chills, the headaches, the pains, the aches, the oohs, the ahs, the ooga boogas, the wooga woogas.
It was the weirdest thing ever. I mean, last week I had weird hives on my body, but I thought it was a post-pregnancy hive problem. At least that's what urgent care said. They're like, oh no, you're not sick. It's probably just something from the hospital that you got, some sort of allergy.
Urgent care is a bunch of lying shits. I think we got picked up something at the hospital during the pregnancy.
Because literally a couple days after I gave birth, that's when I started getting hives.
Yeah, and I have some kind of weird rash on my elbow or something like that that's similar to what you had. So
maybe Hazel is healthy though. She had her 2-week appointment just the other day, and she's taller than average, but everything else is average. Her weight, she's at her birth weight again because they lose a little weight and then they gain it back. So she's doing good.
She's good. I've basically just stayed away from her completely so I don't get her sick, because that would be rough. Because the doctors told us all these horror scenarios, but when newborns are sick, what they do and stuff. So anyways, but we're going to power through the show today and hopefully have a little bit of fun as well. Justin will be here with us at 8 a.m. Central Time. Thank God. I'm going to need the crutch to lean on a little bit today. I'm kind of shaky.
Oh, no.
It is what it is. Justin will be here at 8 a.m. And rather than go through, we had a couple of deep politics stories to talk about. I'm just I don't think I'm going to make it through all of that, because we're already going to talk about the elections for an hour. So we're going to get through all of that. And then by the time we get to Justin, I just want to have fun.
Right.
I just want to do hood rat things with my friends, So, so Justin will be here at 8 a.m. Central. He found an article on BuzzFeed that's kind of the type of relatable topic that everybody's going to have something to say about. It's from a BuzzFeed article. It says, "This just isn't acceptable anymore. People are sharing things that boomers considered normal that younger generations no longer do." So
that's interesting.
Right. So things that boomers did that younger generations no longer do. So Justin and I, we'll talk about that. And, it's the first time, is the first time we've seen Justin on the show since the babies, or since he went back to Boston?
He was on last week.
On last week. Okay. Yep. So we'll talk to Justin at 8 a.m. Central, and that's just going to be a fun segment, and we'll goof around. There's been a lot happening. Kamala Harris chose her vice presidential pick, Tim Walz.
I saw that.
Right. And
I didn't even know who the guy was.
Yeah, I think the whole world let out a collective who, right? Nobody. They were all expecting it to be this governor of Pennsylvania, the Josh Shapiro guy.
Okay, I don't know him either.
Okay, well,
he sounds Jewish.
He is. Well, he is.
Shapiro.
Yeah, he kind of so he tried to back away from his Jewishness for a little bit.
Oh, he identified as something else?
Well, it was kind of so you know how the Democratic Party right now is in this weird place.
With Israel.
Yeah. Because of how the Democratic progressive base were Israel haters at this point, and by extension, many of them are true anti-Semites.
Right.
And so Josh Shapiro would have been a really strong pick for Kamala for a general election because Pennsylvania is like the state to try and win. She needs Pennsylvania to win. But it's like the most important state. And Josh Shapiro, being the governor of Pennsylvania, would have been a very strong pick. I mean, Republicans would have been pooping their pants. I mean, they already kind of are based on the polls that are showing Kamala Harris is kind of in the lead at this point, right? On a lot of these national polls.
I was scared of her.
I mean, here's the thing, it could be fake news, and a lot of these polls are BS, and the media is propping her up like crazy. Never before have so many done so much for so little.
I mean, you were talking to my sister the other day, who's a Democrat, and it sounds like, is she excited about Kamala Harris?
Well, sure. I mean, they were all terrified.
I haven't talked to her about politics lately.
No, but I mean, they were all terrified of Biden and that's why they forced Biden out, not because he was too sick, but he was. Yes. If Joe Biden was beating Donald Trump by like 10 points, he'd still be the candidate. You see, the Democrats had no problem advancing Joe Biden when he was sick, dying worse than I am at this point, where he was. They don't care at all about Joe Biden's health. They don't care at all. All they care about is winning this election this fall. Of
course.
So Joe Biden could have been actually dead, and if he was pulling ahead, they would have kept him on the ballot.
Right.
And that sounds like a joke, but they did that here in Missouri. Remember this?
Right. Yeah.
The story.
And then the wife took over of the person who died.
Exactly. They're like, oh, it's too late to take him off. I mean, they could have lawsuited, they could have replaced a name, but if the dead guy in Missouri, Carnahan, if he had been polling 10 points behind in the governor race and then he died, they would have replaced his name on the ticket. But since he died, it was like a very brief amount of time before the thing, but he was polling very well. They just left his name on the ticket and then gave the seat to his wife.
Yeah, I don't have a good feeling about this election. I feel like Donald Trump, even though he almost got shot, he's losing his power. I mean, we see that people that he endorsed for even our Missouri election did not win.
Right.
So I feel like people are just not paying as close attention to Trump anymore like they used to. They used to take all his words as like the Bible. If he likes somebody, everybody likes somebody.
What I think is going to be responsible for Donald Trump losing?
Who?
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Because he'll take votes away.
Yeah, I think most of the polls that have come out lately, and I posted this the other day, and man, the conspirators were so. They were so angry at me. They were so mad. I mean,
they're always mad at you.
They're always mad at me because I don't buy every retard like conspiracy. It's like every day there's a new conspiracy theory, and every day there are people that instantly believe it.
Oh,
and it's like you can't even take 24 hours, but it's like we all the conspiracy crowd comes at you and they shove something in your face. And it's like, look. And it's like, okay, can I digest it? Can I look at it, please? Like, no, you must believe it now. This is the word of God. And it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, will you please just let me have some time before I just buy into whatever bullshit of the day's theory that you are spinning? Okay, can I at least take a little bit of time? It's like, no, you must believe it. You have to believe it. And then you have like the army of retards behind it. They're like, yeah, we all believe it. Yeah, we all got D's in history class, Poochie, but we know everything about international politics.
You literally look like all of the libertarian podcasters. They look like, seriously.
The jab. It's like, anyways, so Joe Rogan endorsed Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
He did?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's always been like a lefty guy anyway. So
Joe Rogan has?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, he's from Hollywood, so I would assume so.
Yeah.
He has somewhat of a libertarian flair to him.
Well, he's like a left libertarian.
Right,
to some extent. Anyways, I've got the clip. Take a listen.
That's just what they do. That's politics. They do it on the left. They do it on the right. They gaslight you. They manipulate you. They promote narratives. And the only one who's not doing that is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
You a fan?
Yeah, I am a fan. Yeah, he's the only one that makes sense to me. He's the only one that he doesn't attack people. He attacks actions and ideas, but he's much more reasonable and intelligent. I mean, the guy was an environmental attorney and cleaned up the East River. I mean, he's a legitimate guy. Before anybody started calling him an anti-vaxxer, which I thought he was too. I thought he was this nut, this like conspiracy theorist nut, until I read his book. I read The Real Anthony Fauci, and I'm like, what is – how much of this is real? Because if it's all real,
See, how much of this is real? He's like, I didn't know the truth until I read his book. And then he's like, how much of this is real? You know what I mean? Like, here's the thing. I love
to be a conspiracy theorist. I mean, that's his main thing.
Right, but here's the thing. It's like, it's fun. Listen, I love listening to Joe Rogan. He has great guests. Okay.
Yeah.
And I love listening to have these conversations, but it's like, I don't get my politics from somebody who's like, their big thing is DMT and getting kicked in the head and all that stuff. Listen, I love Joe Rogan, but I mean, this is a typical bonehead Joe Rogan move, right?
How is RFK Jr., how is he rational in any way? I mean, sure, he doesn't attack other people, but
yes, he does.
He's spewing out.
Here's the thing. RFK Jr. is a lying sack of dog shit politician. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you why. Because just like every other lying sack of dog shit politicians, he spent his entire life and career attacking people, saying that people like you and I deserve to be in jail, Stephanie, because we don't believe in his environmental bullshit.
All right. Well, he cleaned up the river.
Oh, yeah, so sure he did.
That's all that matters.
Oh, Lord, let me tell you, lawyers, they're famous for doing good things for people and not lining their pockets. Yeah, let me push the laughter button on that one. Lawyers do a lot cleaning up rivers. Yeah.
Did he get out there with like a stick and just started taking all the plastics out of the river?
I was laughing. I was watching this Super Nintendo game, like retro, the other day, where they were looking at Earthworm Jim, and there's this one level where Earthworm Jim goes to hell, and one of the bad guys in hell is lawyers. It's just what's like, you have all these weird like demons and stuff, and then all of a sudden they have like one of the bad guys that comes out and attacks you as lawyers. So yeah, no. Let me tell you, RFK, he all of a sudden now he's running for office. He doesn't attack anyone. Now he's really nice. You can trust him now. He's different, right? Like, how stupid can you be? Like, don't look at what they say. Look at what they do. Look how they spent their entire career. And it's like, RFK Jr. will say something really stupid, and then he'll take it back, and then people will forget that he said something stupid because, again, it's a cult of personality. The Kennedys have a cult of personality around themselves, and so here's the thing: just like Donald Trump has a cult of personality, Ron Paul has a cult of personality. Oh, dude, yeah, me too. Until when I started to think for myself, that's when like me and Ron Paul people started like loggerheads.
Oh,
and we started having problems because when you questioned your leader in any way, shape, or form at all, in any sense, it's no.
The RFK Jr. people online, they tend to be very nice and friendly
until you question
than most.
They tend to be, right? But I mean, that's what they do. They tend to do a lot more drugs, and they tend to be more hippies, and they tend to be left libertarians, right? Which are the type of people who will bend over and take it up the ass from a Waltz Harris administration, rather than put up with somebody who is mean and does mean tweets like Donald Trump, and he attacks people. Donald Trump attacks people, and he's mean. Oh my God, it's not so bad. Kamala Harris gonna girl boss. She's gonna be slay. She's gonna be brat. She's brat. Kamala Harris brat. Tim Waltz dressed flannel.
Waltz has really been mean. I mean, he's been throwing punches at JD Vance, and JD Vance has been throwing punches at him.
They're
knocking each other over.
He's daddy.
Yeah, Kamala. Ugh. Oh my goodness, they all are disgusting.
This is fucking insane. And we live in a world where we're being manipulated by these health organizations that are being paid by the pharmaceutical drug interests. And these pharmaceutical drug companies are pumping these products out into the population and telling us that we need them, and then making insane amounts of money. And then also the government is in on it. And also they share a patent with Moderna, and also they share profits, and there's $700 million, however much money was made, whatever the number is that these guys made off of these products. Like, this is, all of it is fucking crazy. There's the revolving door between the CDC and the FDA and then these pharmaceutical drug companies. So the people that make the regulations then go on to have these cushy jobs with the pharmaceutical drug corporations. Like, oh, nothing to see here. It's like, it's open. It's right out in the open.
Right.
And when he talks about all that,
well, that's called regulatory capture, and that's a pretty common theme and a big problem. And
it's true.
but
it's not like that's a conspiracy theory.
No, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy fact.
Right.
But regulatory capture is something that economists talk about quite often. But the only person who has proposed an actual solution to regulatory capture who ran for president this year is Vivek Ramaswamy. Because here's the thing: regulatory capture is when an industry that is supposed to be a bureaucracy is created to regulate an industry, right? So say like the EPA, for example.
Right.
And what they'll do is they will hire, in order to get the best experts on regulating that industry, they will hire people from the corporations that they're meant to regulate. And then those people who worked for those corporations have a good reputation, rapport with those corporations that they used to work at. And then the bureaucracy becomes captured by the companies that it's supposed to regulate. And then it takes it easier on those companies because they're all friends and in bed with one another, right? So that's called regulatory capture.
Yes.
And so that's what Joe Rogan is talking about there. But Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has no plans to do that. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. doesn't want to abolish the deep state. Right? Much like J.D. Vance has proposed, and of course, like Waltz and Harris, they have no plans on changing at all whatsoever.
Oh no!
They only want to expand the deep state. I mean, I think Trump probably of all the three candidates, Trump probably on some primal level understands that he should abolish the deep state. I don't know if he thinks he can. Maybe he doesn't want to. But I have never heard Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suggesting that we should abolish the institutions. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. loves the institutions. He is so retarded. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is so fucking stupid that he's like that Terrence, what's the guy that was on Joe Rogan recently? You wouldn't know.
Oh no,
he was this actor who comes on, the guys like this used to talk like this in high school and college to get laid from hippie girls who were too stoned to understand, but they would sound really smart because they would be like, well, if you take the Pythagorean theorem and you cross it and you do a squared plus b squared equals x squared, but what if you actually replace the b with Saturn in the sky? And if you notice, it all comes to make a triangle. And what is the triangle for? The Pythagorean theorem.
Oh wow!
Right, and it sounds really smart. It does, really sexy, but really you're just a fucking retard.
Right.
You say a lot. It's
captivating.
You know what they call this? Sophistry. This is called being a sophist. It's where you say really stupid things in a really beautiful way.
It's like word salad.
Yeah, to some extent, but like word salad is probably easier for the average brain to pick up on. It's really effective on the female brain.
Yeah.
Right. So like when you say exactly, I worked on you.
Oh, it did. I mean, with that tone of voice,
you were getting kind of turned on.
Oh, I was.
Right.
Yeah.
But what did I say?
Nothing.
I said absolutely
nothing. It made no sense at all.
Yes, exactly. Terrence Howard. Thank you, CJ. That's who I was talking about. Thank you. Appreciate that.
It just really brought me in. Like I was really listening to every word you were saying.
Of course. Oh, you know what it is? I'm glad you said it like that, Stephanie, because how many times have I played for you this song? Doesn't matter what I say, as long as I say it with inflection. And there is something amiss. I am being insincere because the hook brings you back.
Oh, it does.
On that you can rely. But what is that song about? What does it mean, Stephanie?
It's all about hooking that person back in and just roping them back in.
Right, but how does that work? What is it? What am I doing? Like, how am I?
You're manipulating my brain.
Yeah, I don't mean any of this.
Right, so you're not being sincere.
I'm not being sincere, right? So,
but there's something that's just captivating about what you're saying at the same time.
Yes, and then
because it sounds profound.
Yes,
you're using big words and big ideas that I've heard before, like Pythagorean theorem. I've heard that before.
And you're like, that's a smart thing.
And it sounds very familiar, right? And I'm like, wow, he must know something.
That's what smart people say.
You're just using large words with me.
It doesn't matter.
That I'm not totally sure on. And I'm like, oh, he probably knows what's going on.
No, so long as I sing with inflection.
Right.
that makes you feel that I'll convey some inner truth or vast reflection.
Yeah, because you weren't stalling at all. You kept going, and it was making sense, rolling off the tongue real nice.
But I've said nothing so far.
Correct.
And I can keep it up for as long as it takes. And it don't matter who you are. If I'm doing my job, it's your resolve that breaks because the hook brings you back.
Oh my God.
I'm telling you no. And what's the song that's playing underneath this, Stephanie? What's the song?
It's another song, actually.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. What is it?
Yes.
It's
yes.
No way.
That's right.
That was the song we played at our wedding, walking down the aisle there.
No, I thought we played Africa.
Well, Africa was me.
Oh, yeah.
But our bridesmaids and groomsmen, they walked down with Canon and D.
Yes. Yeah. There is something amiss.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm being insincere. In fact, I don't mean any of this. Still, my confession draws you near.
Is this what RFK Jr. does?
To confuse the issue, I'll refer to familiar heroes from long ago. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. No matter how much Peter loved her, what made the pan refuse to grow? Was that the hook brings you
what
back?
What made the pan refuse to grow?
That's right. That's right. No matter how much Peter Pan loved her, it wasn't Wendy that made the pan refuse to grow. It was the hook that brought him back. Captain Hook.
Oh,
that's right, Stephanie. Captain
This is like
Hook.
just blowing my brain right now. Whoa.
Yes.
So this is what RFK Jr. does?
Yes. Yeah, that's what RFK Jr. does, is he says stupid things in a very intelligent sounding way. Yes. He says things that are very, just kind of like Bernie Sanders. You know, this is what politicians do. In fact, if you watch if you watch the music video of Hook, there's a politician that's depicted in it, and he's the one who sings the lines. There is something amiss. I'm being insincere. In fact, I don't mean any of this. Still, my confession draws you near. And he sings to confuse the issue. I'll refer to familiar heroes from long ago. So politicians will often do this. They'll say, just as George Washington crossed the Delaware.
And then you're like, okay, that's true.
Yes.
This is a fact. I'm here.
He knows history stuff, man.
Right. You say something that makes so much sense that draws people in and makes them trust you for a moment.
Yes.
And then they come with you on your journey.
Let me tell you why Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is either an idiot or a liar or both. Because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has claimed that the CIA, without evidence, that the CIA has killed his father.
Oh, right.
Okay, the CIA killed his dad.
They really did?
No.
Oh, no.
No.
Okay.
Sirhan killed his father. Okay.
Who's he?
It's a long story.
He's not CIA. He's
everybody's CIA.
Okay.
If you want to believe everybody's CIA, and if you do a lot of drugs and you sit in your mother's basement and you read like one or two websites and you confirm your biases all day long, then yes, everything is CIA that you don't like.
Okay.
Right. And a lot of this stuff, a lot of the things that they see as evidence is usually foreign intelligence. The real conspiracy is that foreign intelligence agencies seed propaganda and conspiracy theories here in the United States.
Yeah, I believe that.
But here's the thing. So he thinks that the government, the federal government that he's running to be the head of, right, that killed his father, and he wanted Secret Service protection, right? And I'm sure he probably thinks that the CIA and the Secret Service tried to kill Trump, right? Or that they did, so it's their mission. But he wants their protection.
Right. Yes, and they gave it to him, right? He's getting it. They did.
They did. They killed his dad.
But he wants
them to hang out with guns around him.
And they won't kill him.
No, because this time it's different.
Right.
Listen, the problem is...
That doesn't make sense.
The problem is with the conspirators is that for them, like Robert F. Kennedy... John F. Kennedy Jr. getting shot by Oswald, finding out what that is the most important thing to them for like their, and fine, vote for everyone who you would vote for. Everybody gets to decide who they are, and I get to criticize, and that's how it is. Your vote is your conscience, what have you. But most people don't vote for for those issues, right?
Right, they're voting for the economy.
They vote for the kitchen table issues. Not CIA killed my dad, man. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's not what drives people to like take time out of their busy days.
Right.
Go down to the polling place and pull a lever and vote for whoever.
Just
right?
like most of us don't vote for the person that frees Snowden. At least that's not what I really care about. I know the libertarians do.
Right.
Free Assange, free Snowden, all that.
Quest Fanning. You ever go to history class on weed? Yeah, man. Thank you. Have you ever seen that movie Half Baked, Stephanie?
No.
Oh, it's funny. We'll watch it sometime.
Okay.
Half Baked. Yes, Courtney Conover has it right. Everything is CIA, deep state, Israel, AIPAC, FBI, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You want to hear something that'll really piss everybody off? So when Hillary Clinton gave her speech to Goldman Sachs, this is going to piss everybody off.
When she was running for president?
Before she was, I think while she was running for president. It's been in 2016. Do you remember there was like the DNC hack, and then like the Russians hacked, and then all
Russian collusion?
Yeah, well, that wasn't the Russian collusion. That was with Trump. But this is different. So the Democrats blamed.
They hacked her email.
They hacked her emails.
Yeah.
And they released portions of her speech that she gave to Goldman Sachs.
Okay.
And one of the most largest, most powerful.
Yep, this email hack sounds very familiar.
Okay. Did you ever by chance read any of those emails?
No.
This is going to piss everybody off.
Okay.
Okay. If you read them, you will realize that Hillary Clinton was actually far more economically libertarian than you would believe.
Oh, I did hear something about that.
And the reason why she doesn't show that publicly is because she knows that her Democrat base are communists.
Oh, of course.
So I do it. Go back and read. You can find a copy of it online. Get Hillary Clinton's speech to Goldman Sachs. Would have been like 2015, 2016-ish time when it was dropped. She had to lie to the Democrat base. She's what you might call neoliberal. And it was this, when you read her story, she says that we have to like campaign one way, but we will govern another. And I actually kind of respected her a little more for that when I read that.
And to win the election, you got to say certain things.
Well, yeah. Having lost 2 elections and sick and tired of losing, I now realize that there are certain things and I got Van Skyn to say this actually, I think on the show either last week or the week before. When he came on the show, I was like, they call this, and this is like Ron Paulites, like they flee when they hear me talk about these things because this is what neocons do. But Plato, the ancient philosopher, talked about this thing called the noble lie, which is that the truth has to be withheld from the people who are too stupid to process it.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, for example, here's a good example. Let's say that there is a fire in the crowded theater.
Yeah.
Okay. If you shout fire in the crowded theater, they're going to panic and they're going to stampede.
Yes.
Okay. So what do? You don't tell people. Like, is there a fire? We heard that there's a fire. No, everything's fine. Like just go through this. Just got a little wiring issue, blah, 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 right? Just go through that, blah, blah, blah. Just go through this hallway. Everything's going to be fine, right? Because if you told them the truth, what are they going to do? They're going to stampede. But if Hillary Clinton was lying to her Democratic base and saying, oh, well, I'm a communist like you, the Republicans would seize on it and be like, look, she is a communist. She is one of them.
Right.
But secretly, I mean, she was a Goldwater girl.
Okay.
Did you know this?
No.
When she was a young girl, she was a campaign volunteer for Barry Goldwater.
Okay.
You didn't know that?
No.
She was a Goldwater girl. So she's what they call today neoliberal. So she might not be with us on things like abortion or some of the social issues and things like that. But on the economic issues, she's far more libertarian than J.D. Vance.
She might be better than Kamala. Okay.
Oh, yeah, far better, right? It's hard to know where Kamala is on anything because she has like always kind of flip-flopped where she needed to be in order to win an election. I wish libertarians were as good at doing that. But I mean, the problem with libertarians is that they think that they have, not only do they feel like they have to tell the truth in every single situation, but they also offer so much information that they don't have to, right? So even more, it's like, oh, and yeah, I kissed a girl when she was 17 too, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like, you didn't have to say that.
They have no filter. They don't know how to just stop.
Yeah. Donald Trump did it effectively because in 2016 when he campaigned, the reason why I ran against him was because he said a lot of things that were socialist, and I was like, oh my God, I definitely don't want to support this guy. So I ran for president. And then when he was governing, he actually didn't do a lot of that stuff. He didn't even try. He dropped it immediately. And I was kind of like, oh my God. Oh, so he's going to govern. He governed far more libertarian than I expected.
Right.
And that's why I feel somewhat more comfortable supporting him now because
seeing
of the way
how he was in reality.
Yeah. So anyways, this is all a big, long conversation, which is fine, but I'm burning up my energy, so I need to kind of like step back a little bit. So I want to start talking about the elections here in Missouri.
Yes.
Let's do that.
We both voted.
Yes, we both voted. And I would say overall, mostly disappointing night.
I was really shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a lot of friends on the ballot. Dr. Bob Onder.
Yes, and let's talk about that real quick. He won, and here is a video of him getting a phone call from Donald Trump that night to congratulate him on his victory. Take a listen. Yeah, here it is.
Oh, it was. Thank you so much, Mr. President, for your support. Well, they sure did. You gave me your endorsement on July 8th, and on the same day, they started spending about $1 million, $1.5 million, calling me a never Trumper. But fortunately, Mr. President, the voters believed you and not their lies.
Yeah, I didn't know. They do things you wouldn't believe. They say I supported him when I never even heard of the people.
Exactly.
But you know what? It's always found out. When you have enough money to let it be known, it gets found out.
Yeah.
And you let it be known. Well, I know you had a tough one and you did a great job. And congratulations. And celebrate tonight, and then you have to go back to work, right?
Well, we've got to go back to work and get you elected as president.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we got to do it. I'll tell you. I think we were helped greatly today.
Yes. Good. Good.
I think it's like a dream, but we'll find out. We'll know pretty soon.
Yeah.
So congratulations. Take care of yourself. I'm with you always, and you just be good. Have fun.
Anything I can do, I will be there for you, Mr. President, and I look
no doubt.
I look forward to being with you in January.
We'll get together, and you just take care. Congratulate the family. I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Take care of yourself.
You too.
So long, man.
Yeah.
Aww. You know, Trump makes a lot of calls to people.
Mm-hmm.
He seems really sincere.
Well, he's smart. And I want to say real quick, thank you to Andy Opperman. He bought 4 boxes of Jeffersonian Java this morning. Thank you, Andy.
He's so nice.
Thanks to everybody, L-Dubs and everyone for all, Joni, all the donations you guys have made. We're very grateful.
My gosh.
That's exciting. I mean, Dr. Bob Onder, he was at our wedding. I've known him for years. We worked arm in arm during the pandemic to fight against COVID tyranny here. I have a feeling that Dr. Bob is going to take a place up there with Thomas Massie as one of the best congressmen in DC.
Absolutely. Yeah. When we were at the what was it? The local convention thing, not the caucus, but the one where you were a delegate and I just kind of sat in the audience.
Oh, the regional convention.
Yes, that was when I saw him. And I felt so special because he was asking all about my pregnancy because he's a doctor. And like all these other people were trying to come up and talk to him. And he just kept talking to me about my pregnancy and kind of like shooing people away.
Well, Dr. Bob.
And it was so sweet. I was like, why am I here, and you're talking to me and all these other really important people are not as.
We've just built up a really good relationship. You know what it was? What started it?
Yeah.
His sons were big fans of mine.
Right.
In 2018 when I ran for U.S. Senate. And so his sons would tell him all the time about me. That was when he was in the Senate here in Missouri. And so Dr. Bob was kind of like, oh, I kind of like that Austin Petersen guy. But then when the pandemic hit, there were very few sort of authorities in multiple ways that I could call upon for my radio show to help explain to people like the status of the vaccine, the status of the pandemic, the status of the state laws.
Right.
I mean, he's a senator, he's a doctor, he's a lawyer. And now he's our U.S. congressman. Yeah. Well, he will be when he has to go up against the Democrat this fall, but this is like a red plus 12 district. So it's not even a question.
Hopefully he'll win that.
Yeah, it's not even a problem. So, and then I see Quest Fanning reminding us, Cori Bush is out. That was a huge one.
Oh, okay. I wasn't following that one.
I've got to find the video, but Representative Cori Bush was a member of the Squad. So she was kind of like one of the worst in terms of progressive leftists.
Okay.
And she got jousted by this Wesley Bell attorney guy in St. Louis. It was, good God, thankfully I found the video. But this was here's a blast from the past. This is not recent, but this was a video of Cori Bush being confronted about tax policy when she was campaigning for Congress the very first time. Take a listen to this.
The wealthy should pay their fair share.
Yes, wealthy should pay their fair share.
What is a fair share? What percentage?
So you're saying that you're saying that they're paying their fair share is what you're saying?
No, I'm asking what percentage is a fair share?
Their fair share, the same, if a third of my money is going to taxes, then I think a third of their money should be going to taxes. It does. Well, it does.
I'm trying to understand because you realize the effective tax rate on the poor is less than it is on the rich, right?
Okay, so first of all, I'm not the poor. I'm very close to that line, but I'm not the poor.
Okay, so the effective tax rate on the middle class is less than it is on the rich, correct? What fair share would you like to change the tax rate to on the wealthiest what percentage of Americans so it's a fair share?
So let's say the wealthy 1% could pay, let's say if they paid, let's just give them 45%.
Oh my goodness.
The wealthy should pay.
She was trapped.
She
did not know what to say.
So think about that question for a second. And what
I hear a lot of politicians saying fair share. Biden used to say fair share all the time. He said that at that very first debate with Trump.
So it was a brilliant way to word the question by the Fox News reporter. And here's the thing. So this was a variation of a Thomas Sowell quote. Because Thomas Sowell had a quote that said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, I always hear politicians talking about fair share. What is your fair share of what someone else has worked for?
Right.
So when you ask it that way, it instantly puts the person on the defensive, because what you're in essence saying is that taxation is theft, right? Yes. What you're saying essentially is that what's your fair share of what someone else has worked for? When you put it that way, then you realize, well, I'm entitled to 100% of what you are, which of course is slavery, right? 0%, which is anarchy, right? So what is a fair share of what someone else has worked for? Right? And forcing a progressive to answer that question, usually, like if they're a progressive who's done any amount of homework and involved in tax policy, they'll say something like, I don't know, 25% federal, 10% state, 5% everything else, or something like that.
Right. Oh my goodness.
She wasn't ready for that.
That was very cringe to hear.
Oh yeah.
She was stumped.
Do you know why what she's blaming her loss on?
What?
AIPAC. The Jews.
Oh, of course.
The Jews.
The Jews don't take a fair share.
The Jews with the little horns.
Yes.
The horny Jews.
Oh. Yeah, they're the ones she wants to tax 45%.
Mm-hmm. They'll take everything from the Jews.
Of course.
They take everything, the land that they're standing on as well.
Well, good. I'm glad she lost.
Me too. Absolutely. So Bob Onder won in Missouri. Cori Bush lost in Missouri. That's kind of mostly the good news. The other good news is that Kathy Jo Loy won in Southwest Missouri.
One of our friends.
She's a big-time Liberty Republican. Mm-hmm. We get to take a little credit for that. You know why?
Why?
So you know how when people are donating to the Wake Up America show, $17.76 a month to us. So I took somebody's pledge to us.
Yeah.
And I've been pledging $17.76 a month to Kathy Jo Loy.
Oh, I was wondering what that post was about, because you were like, when people donate $17.76 a month, this is where it goes to, and I was like, what does that mean?
There's only like a few people who know that. Right?
Okay.
But yeah. So in order to help Kathy Jo Loy get elected, I took someone's pledge to us and I repledged it back to Kathy, and Kathy won. And
that's cool.
So we get a little bit of credit for that, but. And I don't want to pat myself on the back too much. She obviously did most of the work.
Yeah.
But Kathy Jo Loy, she was more of kind of like your typical sort of garden variety conservative, like when we met. And then she invited me to go to her house and to give a lecture to people in her community on the history of the Republican Party and the economic history. I remember seeing
pictures of that. Yeah.
Yes. And it was after that lecture that I gave that she started to do more homework and more research, and she started to come further and further on the downright portion of the Liberty quadrant of the political quadrant. And she credits me to this day with making her a Liberty Republican. And so we helped to finance her. We indoctrinated her. Just kidding.
Oh, she's a very sweet lady.
Oh, she's lovely.
It probably helped that she's a pretty woman as well.
Well, she is. She's a very pretty girl, pretty lady, but she's also very well spoken. She's very sweet and she's very generous.
Yeah, comes from a wonderful family, has a beautiful family herself, lots of children. I mean, they're like the best family image in my mind that I would strive for.
Yes. So that was, that was good news. That was very helpful. We love seeing that because otherwise it was kind of a rough night. And there were maybe a few, maybe one other bright spot was that the Latina chick who has the mouth.
Oh, Valentina.
Valentina Gomez.
Yes.
The Latina who talks with the mouth of a prostitute. Right. She lost her election by like 1 million points. She got like 6th place. So
it's sad. Influencers do not win elections.
No.
I mean, we saw that too with Brian Herrera. He's a good guy. He's not like Valentina, but just in saying that influencers don't win elections, it's like they might be popular on YouTube or TikTok or wherever, but
you can go
that doesn't translate into votes.
You can go from politician to influencer, but not the other way. At least not yet. It hasn't been done yet because we saw Brandon Herrera in Texas, for example. He was somebody who got really close to winning his primary, and he had millions of followers.
And I thought he would win.
Well, I thought I don't know if I thought he would win, but I mean, it was a squeaker for him. It was very close, but not quite. I thought he was going to be the first one to be able to cross over, but he wasn't. Camellia reminds us about Bryant Wolfen in St. Genevieve. He won.
Okay, I don't know.
He's one of us.
Okay. Yes.
And so the thing about Valentina Gomez is that like what she doesn't understand is that like politics is about winning hearts and minds, not burning bridges. So when you're running for office, it's a completely different thing to do than to gain followers on Instagram. See, people like, for example, if you have 200,000, she like got 200,000 followers on Twitter.
Wow.
You have to understand that like a portion of those are bots.
Yes.
And a portion of those are people who hate you.
And people who don't even live in the state. That's the thing.
Yes.
The thing about you as well for your elections is that a lot of people who support you don't live here in Missouri. I didn't live here in Missouri. I couldn't vote for you.
And even a lot of the people who lived in Missouri who supported me weren't even old enough to vote.
Right. and a lot of the kids that watch TikTok videos and Instagram, they're not 18 yet.
Yeah, or if they are, then they're not showing up to vote.
Exactly.
Right? And they think the election is in November. They don't know there's a primary.
Right. Or they're just keyboard warriors and they're just like posting about the person.
Or they're like, or they're like, well, I want to come up and vote for this candidate. And then they show up to their election place and they're like, oh, well, I'm a Democrat. I'm going to pull the Democrat ballot. And then they're like, why isn't the candidate I wanted to vote for on the ballot?
Oh,
you know what I mean? So I had that happen too with a lot of people. They're like, oh, I didn't see you on my ballot. And it's like, well, it's because you pulled the wrong ballot, right? So
sounds like something I would do.
Yeah. So anyways, but the thing too about Valentina Gomez is that, and I just want to tell this story very briefly. Do you remember my friend Cortland Sykes?
See, he was in the same election as you, running for U.S. Senate.
So he kind of like, he was not hateful like Valentina Gomez. Valentina Gomez was like a level of like scum that was like off the charts hatred, right? But Cortland was very aggressive, especially like he would like get in my face and stuff like that. And his campaign, the people who volunteered for him were extremely hateful online, very aggressive.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Very aggressive, very bullying, right?
Yeah, all of us AP people, we didn't like the Cortland people.
Right, but we didn't punch down, remember? We
punched up to Holly.
That's right, we didn't punch down.
Yeah, we were talking a lot about the ladder man.
Right.
So
and it turns out that was the right strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Despite the fact we lost, because he ended up in the same place as Valentina in like 6th or 7th place. No offense, Cortland. I know we're buddies now.
Right.
But here's the thing. We had a conversation the day after the election. I called Cortland and I was like, hey man, you ran a good campaign. Cortland had good policies, but I didn't really ever hear them usually online because it was drowned out by the hatefulness of his followers who were out there being aggressive and bullying. They thought that they could fight to win in an election, but it's not really what you do. You have to like win hearts and minds. You have to make friends and you have to like build connections and you have to get people together on the same team. And
Libertarians hate making friends.
Absolutely. So the thing with Valentina Gomez is that she thought that she was winning because she built up this online following, forgetting all of these other factors. And then she didn't realize, like, she kept railing against faggots, and she kept railing against being weak and gay and trans, blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. But what she didn't realize is that, like, the Republican Party national platform now doesn't say anything about gays.
Right. They like gay people.
Yeah, at this point, because what she doesn't realize is that, like, there are a lot of gay Republicans.
Yeah.
I think the head of the Jackson County Republican Party is a gay man.
Okay.
In Missouri, here in Kansas City. So it's kind of like you just lost a third of the constituency there.
Right.
Because not all conservative Republicans are straight white males who hate gay people.
And she's not conservative herself. Look at her showing off her booty.
Well, exactly, right. And
she's not wearing a trad wife dress.
What booty, right? She's.
I haven't looked at her very much. I don't know.
She's got one of those flat, like, Latin asses.
It's really sad as a Latina.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
she really should have a larger butt.
Never trust a Latina with a flat ass, right?
Yeah, I feel bad for her.
Yeah, she needs to go home and shave that hairy brown ass and go home to New Jersey. And
she needs to go to Brazil and get a butt lift.
Missouri does not appreciate carpetbaggers. Okay, if you want to come, to Missouri, you want to run for office, spend a little time in the communities here, right? Maybe give a little back. Don't just go on like she's like touting this whole, like, I'm catching pedophiles and all that kind of stuff. That plays really well to build Twitter followers on a national level.
Of course,
if you want to run for office here in Missouri, you need to help out Missourians with what Missourians are struggling with.
Do you think maybe that's really what she wanted? She wants to be an influencer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She wants to make money.
She was using us. Yeah. I think she'll probably run back to New Jersey. She'll leave the state of Missouri in a huff.
That's fine.
Right. And
it's working for her.
Right. But I think that the problem is that, like, she doesn't care. She never cared about us.
No.
Right. And then all of the people who were supporting her out there on the national level, they don't care about us. They don't care about Missouri.
No.
And what goes on here and the challenges that we face. And so the voters rightly shellacked her, sent her to 6th place.
Right.
And Cortland, that humbled him. Like, the next day, his attitude changed almost overnight. Just like losing did for me, for sure. Like, it definitely changed my attitude. And I think that's a good sign, right? You should, like, learn from your mistakes, right? So
of course,
whatever the next move is from Valentina, and maybe she learns from this. Maybe she turns around and starts, donating time to charity and starts using. Here's the thing: she uses her power for good. She comes back and changes her attitude. Right? She could probably win. She could. Yeah. She could.
She's a very pretty woman.
She is. But she's got to change her attitude. She's got to sharpen her skills. And here's the thing. You have to actually want to serve people. That's what it is. She didn't care about the people of Missouri because she didn't even take time to learn what the job of Secretary of State was.
Right.
It's not about catching pedophiles and all that kind of stuff. At one time she even said that maybe we ought to change what the job of the Secretary of State is. And it's like,
what?
Yeah. And it's like, no. The job, that's not an activist job. Speaking of Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft lost, Bill Eigel lost. So,
I'm glad Bill Eigel lost.
Why?
I didn't like him.
Why not?
I just thought he was fake whenever he was speaking. Like, and his followers were like MAGA people.
Yeah.
They're very cultish. And like whatever he said, they would go with. Although at the convention that I went to with you, his followers were not in agreement with him a lot of the time. He was like the one standing up and his followers were like, no, why are you standing? We're not standing. But he's a good talker. And he really got me with when he was on your show and he was all against like foreign people being here in Missouri and making businesses.
My thing is that I feel like
turned me off.
I feel like to some extent Eigel sort of got corrupted by not like the establishment, but like his supporters.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that the problem with his supporters were that they were extremely hostile.
Yes.
They weren't building bridges, they were burning them.
They were like worse than the MAGA people.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, even MAGA people have like simmered down to some extent.
They really have.
To a certain extent. But like the Eigel people like were so aggressive and overly hostile. It was just kind of like, like it was a turnoff. And also I knew Eigel back in 2018, he was way more liberty back then.
Really?
Yeah. And I feel like his base, which there's a very strong strain of authoritarian Republicans, and they love to sort of like paint themselves as like the grassroots right here in Missouri. Right. And they're only grassroots because they're just not in power, right? To like a certain extent, but many of them are like registered lobbyists. Right? So it's like kind of this whole fake grassroots thing, right? And so now we're having this fight over who's real grassroots here in Missouri and all that, right?
Right.
Like we're an independent agency, like this company, like nobody funds us, but like our crowds, right? So like, we don't get like huge checks from major corporations other than like a gold check to sell gold every once in a while, which reminds me we should talk about that. But they don't like influence our politics because they don't tell us what to talk about.
Correct.
Right. But like registered lobbyists here in the state of Missouri, they have a political interest in what's happening here in the state of Missouri. So like the thing with Eigel's people is that like I think they influenced him and pearled him more towards that authoritarian right, whereas he was more liberty right, like Kathy Jo.
They wanted him to be a leader. It seemed like.
Well, they wanted him to be a leader, but it was more like a lot of them too that were behind it was about their own self-aggrandizement and their own power.
Oh, of course.
Right. They wanted to get into the governor's mansion, and a lot of those. Here's the thing: the more people seek power. And the more people are fighting like crazy to get it, and the harder they're fighting for it, the more you probably need to kind of be suspicious.
Yeah.
Right. The reason why I like Jay Ashcroft, even though I think he ran a very bad campaign, and to some extent he was too passive, is that it was kind of like this wasn't a campaign about like taking power and like, we're gonna clear them out and then we're gonna be in charge and control. Right. It's like, it was much more about just like doing the business of the people of Missouri.
Yeah.
And that's why I liked the campaign. Now, that being said, Jay made a bundle of mistakes in not campaigning harder and sooner. And
I thought his name recognition was going to get him far because of his dad.
Yeah, things have really changed.
I know his name, and I'm from Michigan, and I'm like, oh, Ashcroft, I know that.
People are tired of political dynasties, and people are ready for new things.
They made that clear at the convention here in Missouri.
Yeah, for sure.
That they, even when they selected the slate of delegates, they didn't want all of those politicians to be on the slate. They wanted just normal people to be on the slate of delegates, and that's why they chose you among all these other normal, civilian people.
That's how I got elected, because I was a normal dude.
Right.
But here's the thing. Mike Kehoe won, and obviously he's not so great on taxes, but I think he'll be an effective governor, more effective than Parson, and he's good on school choice, which is a really important issue, especially for us. Yeah, big time.
Let us choose what school Hazel goes to. Then I'll be fine and happy.
Stephanie, it's 7:58.
Oh my goodness!
I don't want to disappoint people too much and let them know that, like, because I'm like sweating like crazy right now.
Oh my gosh!
Because I've been so sick, I didn't have time to put together a bonus content for today. I hope you weren't like really looking forward to it. So I'm gonna have to just play a quick commercial while I go get Justin on the show.
Okay.
And then we're gonna bring Justin on and we'll have some fun. Okay.
I thought you were gonna say we're gonna end because you're sweating.
No.
Oh my gosh!
I'm just like I'm sweating like crazy because of all the attention and commotion, and because I'm a little sick, but but that's okay because we're just going to go to commercial break. I don't have any bonus content for today. That will return next week when I'm feeling 100. But for now, let's go get Justin Peterson. We're going to talk about things that boomers thought were normal that we don't do anymore. Okay, and we'll have some more fun. We'll talk about baby and all that kind of stuff. We'll get back on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Thanks, guys, for sticking around.
Expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor of your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit PetersonVoiceStudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Yeah, the For Liberty Network. We've got 2 brand new shows coming this fall. I can't wait to introduce to you what we're working on behind the scenes. It's going to be so exciting when you see the brand new shows that we have as part of the triumvirate, the Wake Up America show, and the show and the show. We know what the names are. We aren't going to drop them just yet. You will be finding out very soon, though. I can't wait for those to debut. But don't worry, the Wake Up Show continues as it is. Well, it's been a little weird this week, as Mighty Megatron realized. I've been out for a few days with the sickness, down with the sickness, as they say. And, you know, it's not COVID-19. I took a test, and thankfully I didn't have it. The worst part of I think of it all was that I just couldn't get near my sweet little baby Hazel. It was very sad. But the things that make me happy is sweetheart redheaded libertarian girls who can get a little bit closer. So come a little bit closer, you're my kind of girls. There's my Steffi Peterson on set.
Yeah, it's been hard because we're always very touchy.
I know.
We like to be together.
Yeah, we're always just like hugging and kissing and touching and cuddling.
So it's hard not to be able to do those things.
We were kind of laughing because it was like we were watching Michael Scott with his romance with Holly on the show. Blonde girl, and they were like having all this PDA in the office and stuff. And I'm kind of like, that's kind of like us. It's kind of gross PDA.
We're really cutesy.
Yeah.
Where people expect us to get tired of each other. Like my sister the other day on the phone, she was like, you know, when you get tired of Austin, just go to Target and try on clothes and you're going to love your alone time. And I'm like, I don't understand this. I can't connect with this.
Everybody thinks, oh, you're in your honeymoon phase. You're in honeymoon phase. It's like, we've been together 5 years now. So, I mean, it should be over by now.
Love being with you.
Yeah, speaking of people that I never get tired of and will love until the day I die, my brother, Justin Peterson, here with us live.
Being with him too.
Dias, chicos. How's it going?
Hey, Justin. It's good to see you again, brother. Nice to see you.
You were singing. You were saying that and it reminded me of Sunday school when we grew up with and there's a fountain flowing and
What does that stand for?
Just Christian things.
Oh,
deep and wide.
Things
deep
Christians
and
say,
how does it go?
right?
There's a fountain flowing deep and wide. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
And then you would change it and you would go
and wide, and wide.
There's a fountain flowing and wide.
And then finally go and there's a
oh my God.
Just fun things that we did as kids. Yeah, we were talking with Justin behind the scenes about like being sick and sort of like the trope of like there's a meme going around for years that women will share about how like, you know, they have to go through all this pain of childbirth and they have to, oh my God, do laundry. It's really difficult to do laundry. You know, you throw it in a machine and it does it for you. But
invented by a man, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome, ladies.
You'd still be working at the river.
You'd still be down at the
using our fingernails, scratching the fabric.
Right. But the meme is that men, when they get sick, are like babies and like, oh, my tummy ache, oh, it hurts, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like,
right, and you have to cater to them.
Right. Doesn't sound like any man I've ever known in my life when they're sick, right? Like my dad, especially, I had to beg him to go to the hospital when he had a heat stroke.
Oh gosh.
Oh, that is total boomer energy right there.
Yes.
That is like, you know, like dad would be like, he would tell me these stories about these dudes that got caught in farm equipment, you know, growing up as kids.
Oh my gosh.
Like there was this guy that we had in our community, our farming community, called Shorty. And I guess he got in a tractor, in some kind of combine accident. Dad will tell you all about it. But I always thought and I think he lost his hand or something. And so I conferred. I was like, well, maybe that's why they call him Shorty, because he lost his hand. But like, you know, these guys, those farmers, man, they're tough. Farm tough is real. Farm tough is real, man. Those people are like, oh, it's nothing. It's just a flesh wound. You know, it's like, and they're like, bro. You know, so like literally like take it on the chin and just like deal with it.
Like Steffi and her mother, Verna, who's been in town helping us out with the baby, which is, God, she's been wonderful.
Good timing, especially with all this that's been happening.
They were both really shocked that, I guess I'm not complaining a lot, because they were surprised. They're like, you don't seem sick. And it's just kind of like, I try not to make my problems other people's problems.
Right. Not, you know I'm the same way.
Like, unless I literally cannot walk to go get something for myself, you know, then I won't ask for something, you know, unless I really, really need it. You know, that's just kind of how I was raised.
I like that about you, honestly, because that's how I am too. I don't like somebody who's like super, super needy all the time.
Yeah.
Plus, obviously, unless you need something and you know you truly do, then I would be fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, I like, you know, when I'm sick, I can, you know, you sort of have to just fall in with your fate, you know, and just kind of like take it and be like, okay, well, you know, I think what happens for me is like I try to fight the sickness, and it makes it worse. So I'm like, you know, you should lay down, you should take some, you know, get some water.
Right.
Okay, so I live obviously on the East Coast. I live in Boston. So one of the things that we have out here is like DoorDash or like Uber Eats, or we have like these delivery services. So like you can even get stuff from CVS delivered, which is amazing. So like if you're sick or something, you know, you don't have to. It used to be you have to call a friend, right? You have to say, can you go get me some syrup from the store? You know, and nowadays you can just have it delivered and it's like comes to your house like within an hour. You know, you can get your medication or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was just talking earlier before the show started about like just growing up and being sick, and Mom would, you know, she was so good about stuff. She'd bring us like, you know, chicken nuggets from McDonald's, or she would bring 7-Up. There was a thing about people drinking 7-Up when you had stomach problems.
Yeah.
And so for me now, there's a bad association with 7-Up. I can't drink 7-Up today because I'm like, oh, it reminds me of like being sick. So I can't even.
Ginger ale, and then in Michigan we had Verner's.
Oh, see now, ginger ale I didn't have ginger ale until I got to Washington D.C. because I didn't even know what ginger ale was, and I think they had it on the airplanes, and that's what it was. I was like, "What's ginger ale? I want to try that." And I can remember that was the first time I'd ever had ginger ale, but that wasn't like a tummy thing. But I do when we were on the cruise. We all went on the cruise. I brought on those like those giant like.
ginger
lozenges.
Yeah.
Those, my sister was like, those things are amazing. So like if you've got like, because they're so spicy, they're so hot, but they totally help with like stomach discomfort. So
the thing though, I think about now in terms of illness culture is that things have changed a lot with the pandemic. It used to be like you would like struggle it out, you would go to work, and like all 3 days that I was out, like I was definitely struggling with that. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I would wake up, I would take my temperature, and it would be 100 degrees, and my head is aching and throbbing. I'm just saying to myself, I'm like, you're gonna make yourself worse. If you go in and you work this out, like you're not gonna be doing a show next week if you do not get better and get rest. And I feel like COVID changed people's attitudes. And I think part of it too is, and this is not the case with me because obviously I know that the people who are supporting this show care about me, but most people realize that their employers don't give a shit about them because, and COVID really showed that. And so a lot of them now are much more willing when they're sick to call out, not just because, but we've seen people like, especially stories of people who like, they're like 40 years old and they die in a car wreck and they had all this time accrued that they never took off. And people are like, I'm wasting my life, days that I could be spending time at home with my family, people I care about. And it's like, you know, when I'm ill, I am at least comforted by the fact that I've got, you know, two beautiful women in there with me, my mother, my mother-in-law, and then of course, my third, my daughter, my beautiful daughter, who's there with me on the other side of the room. And I feel better just being around them, you know, just being around my family, I feel healed. And Justin, you were telling us a little bit about kind of like the darker side of being alone. I feel bad for you because you live alone in Boston. And so when you get sick, that really is like, there's a real darkness that kind of is cast.
Oh, yeah. I always find that I was saying earlier, like I find my darkest and most darkest sort of rumination usually happens when I'm sick, because you have nothing to do but sit there with your own mind, right?
Yeah.
So like when you're ill, you can't, I mean, if you're really ill, you can't really distract yourself with like your computer or your phone, although, you know, sometimes people will do that. But like when you're really just like, I'm in misery, you know, you're just sitting there with your thoughts and then you think about, oh, remember that time in 1995 when I told that friend that I didn't like her dress and she was really mad at me. God, I was such a bad person then.
Aww.
You know, it's like, you just sort of go in a spiral of like all these past sins that you've committed. But I think for me, the thing that I want to say about like sickness is like, it's weird that we think like, I think for us all when we were growing up, it's like that sickness is some kind of a moral failing. Like it's not a moral failing to get sick. Like people get sick. It's a thing that happens. And it's so weird that people are like, well, oh, you know, you should continue to live like you're not. It's like, it's almost like denial. It's like, well, I'm going to live as if this isn't happening. I'm just going to live in denial that I'm not sick. Like you're sick. It's okay. People get sick.
I could definitely connect with that.
Yeah, and I think like I remember like when I would work in an office, like when I worked in here in Cambridge, and like somebody would come in sick, I'd be mad because I'm like, why are you coming in here with your stupid germs and your stupid viruses? Get the hell out of here. You know, so that's an interesting shift. Because, you know, like I was saying with Dad, he's like, you're going to go to school. You're like, but I can't feel my body. You're going to go to school. I'm like, you know, sometimes it would have to be like Mom would have to do the intervention, you know. She'd be like, now, Dave, Justin has a fever and he needs to stay home. And Dave, he can go to school. I went to school. And I'm just like, please, Mommy, save me.
If you're just
Somebody save me.
Yeah, if you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching the Peterson family right now. And that's me, Austin, and my wife, Stephanie, and my brother, Justin Peterson, who are all here. I've been out almost all week here with some kind of mysterious illness, not COVID, but and so we're just talking a little bit about sickness culture, but there's some other issues that I do want to talk to you guys about. Well, I guess not issues, but just like some fun stuff. We always like to end the week on a fun note, not the heavy politics stuff, but more of the fun stuff. And we're going to get to that in just a moment. But I do want to remind you, if you haven't already, please do click the like button on the stream. Help us to spread the ideas and share the fun with more people. It's always more fun the more people we have. And so click the follow button. If today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show and you're like, I can get down with this 5 days a week. The show schedule is Monday through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a 2-hour live talk show And we always have a lot of fun here on the show. So make sure that you follow before you leave. And I know we usually get a big audience over on x.com. I haven't checked the numbers yet this morning, but click the heart button and then repost the feed so that other people can join us here live this morning as well. But the best place is at rumble.com/AP for Liberty. That's where all the chat is, and it's a good time. Okay. Justin, you gave me an awesome article from BuzzFeed, of all places.
Oh, I love BuzzFeed.
I love a list.
A listicle for us to get through. This just isn't acceptable anymore. People are sharing things that boomers considered normal that younger generations no longer do. Okay. Anytime I was sad, upset, or depressed, my parents didn't want to see it or deal with it. My mom would even say, "What the hell do you have to be so upset about?" Honestly, that sounds pretty familiar, relatable.
So boomers are all about hiding their feelings.
Yeah, I would say for sure. Yeah.
The newer generations. Yeah, we're all about expressing ourselves. Yeah, I find that to be very true. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, this is a no. So the question that they asked was, what is the thing your parents consider normal that you don't consider normal anymore?
Okay.
So here's what people said. Number one, you nailed it, Stephanie. Not showing affection or saying I love you.
That's my mother.
Years ago, my brother was admitted to the...
Hope she's not watching.
She's not watching. She'll admit she doesn't watch. But yes, that's honestly what we talk about all the time, is that my mom, she just she doesn't like to hug or say I love you, but Austin's actually teaching her how to do that. And she's saying I love you to Austin now and hugging him.
Good.
So it's very, very healthy for her.
You know, I remember, and and this is my memory, so it's, prone to exaggeration, but I feel like that was very true of my grandparents' generation. Mm-hmm. I feel like my mom and my dad later on, sort of, but they turned that around, because I remember, like, as a little kid, my mother told me this, like, that my grandmother said that her grandkids were the first ones to tell her that we loved her.
Yeah.
Like, my grandmother grew up on a farm in Harrisonville, Missouri. And I think a lot of those boomer generations, I think they just went on like, well, clearly I love you, but they never said it. You know what I mean? They never demonstrated love or affection. And so, like, when Austin and I came along and we were huggers and we were, super affectionate, because that's just how we were living in our home. Our grandma was like, whoa, because Grandma Bill, at the beginning of my life, Grandma Bill was rather cold. Because she was a stern disciplinarian. She'd lived as a single woman. And so she was really emotionally shut down. Grandma Hazel was definitely shut down. And I think having grandchildren was actually her way to get back to being loved and feeling loved, for sure.
Yes. Like, things changed after Mom died,
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, Dad was very stoic like that to a large extent. But then when Mom died, he kind of short-circuited for a little while.
That's right.
Because he was confronted with having to take care of the whole family and keep the business running and provide not only financial support for his family, but emotional support for a little girl, right?
And also have his own grief, right? I mean, like, deal with his own feelings. And how does he, absolutely. I mean, listen, I was talking to a friend this week. I'm like, what Dad did when Mom was sick, like, and I know it was in you guys' wedding vows, I mean, that level, Dad showed up in a big way, for Mom when she was ill. And I mean, I'll never, doing the shots, changing the colostomy bag, holding her hand, staying in the hospital. I mean, Dad was magnificent. I mean, he was magnificent during all of that for taking care of Mom like that. And he did it because he loved her, and Mom even said to Paula, our family friend, she said, Paula, he's my hero,
Aww.
I mean, he showed up, and he, I remember, I don't know if you remember, but, he and Grandma Hazel would tangle sometimes about things, because it was sort of like Grandma was still sort of feeling like she was in that caregiver mode. And Dad was like, this is my wife. I'm going to give her the shots. I'm going to take care of my wife, So I can still remember that, but yeah, I mean, and I think Dad, I think Dad going through that experience became so emotionally rich as a parent. I mean, he really became affectionate. I think he really became loving in a way I think that he hadn't been before. mom passed away, because mom would just do that. You know what I mean? Dad would just be like, I'm the dad, I do the dad stuff. And really, when mom died, he kind of had to be both. He had to be a mom and a dad. And he did a really great job, because you know what? He was so affectionate. He became very loving and very demonstrative, it's been beautiful to see. I think all of our relationships with dad has gotten better over time as we've gotten older, which is what it should be.
So the thing with like your mother, Stephanie, is that, and we've talked about this, and she's not listening, so it's no big deal.
Right.
But
and
like,
she knows she doesn't say "I love you" or hug.
She didn't until she met me.
Right.
But the thing is that like the way that I was able to sort of break down her barriers was, so she can be like the typical Jewish mom, right? So which means that, if she were in a relationship with a man, he might be henpecked because she is very kind of like a nitpicker.
Right.
So, but I'm the type of person who I will not be nitpicked.
Right.
And so,
yeah, you don't take it personally.
I don't take it personally. Right. Well, here's the thing. It's like a lot of things. It's kind of like, you learn a lot from martial arts about like verbal judo as well, and verbal jujitsu. And a lot of times, like, okay, here's a perfect example. You know how like in karate, when we were doing kumite, the sensei or myself will say, don't reach for the block.
Right.
Like if somebody's punching for you,
let them come to you.
Let them come to you, right? Don't reach for the block. There's no need to block something or to reach for something that's not going to hit you anyway.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with like a verbal incident. If they say something that's not nice and it doesn't bother you, just let it go. Don't respond.
Right.
There's no need. You don't have to. Don't reach for the block.
Yeah.
So, with your mother, if she says something, even if she says something completely ridiculous or insulting, I think it almost drives her crazier that I just don't respond. Like, or I'll pretend like I don't hear her.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Are you listening?" I'm like, and then I'll repeat, and then I'll repeat back exactly what she said.
Yes.
Because I was listening, but I was pretending like I wasn't. Right. But then that throws her off her guard. Right. And so her defenses start to get down, and then I'll throw it back a little bit. Right. And kind of tease her a little bit. Right. Or use sarcasm, which kind of like brought her down, because like she's not she's like, is he serious when he says these things?
Yeah.
Like,
she's not used to your personality.
90% of the things that I say to my friends and family, I'm not serious.
Right. Yeah. She's not used to that.
Yes. Like you can be pretty sure that when you hear me say something, if it sounds ridiculous, it is.
Right.
Yes.
I think Austin too, we also deal with things with humor. I think that for me has been a great coping strategy for things. It's like, just be lighthearted about things. Not everything is like astronomically, cosmically bad or whatever, so if you can like
because when you've seen worse, this too shall pass.
Yes. Well, I mean, and I would never wish what we went through on anyone, and not even in my worst enemy. But the depth of character, I think, that it gave to all of us as a family, you can't measure that. And on this isn't. I told myself after Mom died, I said I probably won't go through anything as emotionally devastating as this in my life.
I'm sure.
So. Yeah, it sort of puts things in perspective. You're like, I can deal with this. This is fine. This is not cancer. This is not cancer.
Yeah.
Like whatever I'm going through, I'm like, this isn't cancer.
I think with my mom, Austin, you show her unconditional love, which she's not used to. No matter like what she says or does, you still show her kindness.
Well,
and I think that's what's so different about your relationship with her.
I think because she can sometimes be a little crabby.
Yeah.
Right. She sort of alienates herself from people. And then she finds herself isolated.
Yeah.
And so what I do is, despite the crabbiness, right, I just kind of knock it out of the way. I always include her.
Yeah.
I always speak to her and say, Verna, we want you to be a part of this.
Right.
We want you to be a part of our family, and we want you to visit us, and we want you to come and join in the fun and festivities. We want you to be a part of everything, so that she's part of the group.
Right.
And then that way, you feel, when you're not isolated, you feel like you're contributing and you're appreciated. There's a sense of self-satisfaction, especially with people like your mother, that they get more. Some people take it differently than others, but she especially wants to feel included and loved, right?
Yeah, that's the thing psychologically about people that, feel insecure in groups, is they unintentionally push people away by their behaviors, but really what they want is love and acceptance. They want the opposite of what they're doing.
Yeah, they feel like by pulling away, they're protecting themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quantum Kitty over in the chat, our friend Kilsharian, says, "Thank you. I was massively blessed to have had amazing parents for as long as I did. I held on to that thankfulness desperately. It is wonderful to hear others speak so well of their parents. Yes, we were blessed.
Yes. Oh my
We were
gosh.
blessed with
Oh
wonderful
my
parents
gosh.
and wonderful grandparents. You know,
I mean,
just a
like
beautiful
I say
family.
all the time. I'm not going to make me cry, but like, you know, we were marinated in love as kids. I mean, like there was no doubt about family and the importance of family in our lives and how just precious, precious, precious memories of just happy, happy times.
And I know that this is going to sound kind of funny and strange, but like in some ways, not being fucked up actually made us worse artists.
Oh yes.
Right. Yeah, everyone's like, "Where's your trauma?" I'm like, I don't have any.
I know. Well, it's true.
If you want to be in the arts, you have to have trauma.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be real honest with you, Justin. But I do feel alienated from my peer group and from younger people, especially to a large extent, because I don't identify with their mental illnesses,
right?
And I don't identify with their hatreds of their parents. Right.
Well, and I think that's the thing. And if I can kind of just footnote that, I think this idea, well, to be an artist, you have to be mentally unstable is a trope. Yeah. Right. And I think people then accept the trope and they say, well, if I'm an artist, I have to be quirky. I have to be weird. I have to be unbalanced. And I'm like, no, you don't. You can be an artist and be very psychologically balanced. You know, my idol, one of my heroes, Uta Hagen, acting teacher, said that actors should be of more sound mind and body than the average person because of what they do. And I'm like, go Uta. But yeah, like this idea that you have to be off kilter or you have to have these traumas or whatever. No, I don't think that. I think that's a 19th century cliche.
But like we can't. But the thing is that if you don't have if you're not traumatized and you don't have some mental illness, it's really hard to compete in the marketplace these days.
Yeah.
Because like you don't get to play victim status, right? So. You know, in a Republican primary, it was a benefit to be able to say I was raised on a farm and, you know, I had a loving family, and like that plays well to a certain extent, but like better is to have some real sort of tragedy that shapes you, right? And like mom dying could be part of it. But like to a certain extent, like especially on a Democrat primary or in the arts, like people feel like there's a jealousy, I think, too, from like being around. They don't like you would see this often with like very cosmopolitan city women that you would try and date as a young man in New York City or Washington, D.C. You were boring if you didn't have a fucked up life, right? Women didn't like if you tried to court them in a traditional manner by like being friendly, being polite, you know, bringing flowers, opening the door, doing those kinds of things. That was a square. You're a square, right?
A square.
So like not being fucked up or mentally ill or having a problem or having some darkness, I would actually fake it for a long time. So I faked.
You pretended you had a mental illness.
Not to some extent, but I pretended as if I had some kind of a real dark side that was like, like every man does. Like you know me. Like there were things that surprised you about me when we got together, but like not like most people today, right?
Yeah.
Not like, you know, go get a gun and like, you know, point it at my neighbor because he like put his clippings on my yard or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's like I never sweated the small stuff, but I mean, there really is a mental illness culture today that I just don't identify with. And I think a lot of it has to do with them hating their parents. Like people are screwed up because they hate their dads. And that's why, you know, if she sucked 150 dicks, it's because she hates her dad.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, or just I mean, like the promulgation of mental illness among women, I would say, that's, you know, it's a daddy wound or it's a father wound, some kind of dad wound, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Anytime anybody has any issues in their relationships, I'm always like, what was your relationship like with your parents? And there was usually something there. I'm like, there you go.
Right. Like if you want to stop the communist takeover of this country, then you're going to need to have better fathers stepping up, sticking around, and actually parenting their daughters.
Agree.
Yeah. Are we ready to move on to number 2?
Yeah, we're still on number 1.
On number 1.
Wow.
That was 30 minutes.
Deep. That was deep.
It was really deep. Okay, here we go. Number 2 on this list of things that boomers did that we no longer do. The idea that a college degree is everything. Sure, it's important, but degrees are generally extremely specific nowadays. My degree would never even get me an interview in many fields. Very true. I think I regret my degree to a certain extent. Not entirely, because degree culture was still pretty strong when I was just getting into the workplace back in like 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
But it started to die out as soon as my career started to take off, thankfully it was taking off. That's when people no longer cared about the degrees, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, now I would definitely think twice about going to college. I would definitely think twice about doing something like that because, I mean, if you're smart enough if you're a good reader and if you can figure things out, like if you can figure out how to run a 3D printer these days, figure out stuff on your own, so you can start a business, make good money, and not have to have a degree. People don't care.
Why I'm always ringing the bell for trade schools. I'm always going to ring the bell for trade schools. I'm like, let those great trade schools teach people, give them a trade. They can come out. There's no college debt of any really, import, and they can start making money. I mean, think about that. That's the dating thing too. You've got women who've come out with what, $200,000 worth of college debt, and then you've got a plumber or an electrician or some kind of auto engineer or mechanic who comes out. He's got little to no debt, but he's already making $100,000 a year. And when those two people meet on the battlefield of dating, and she's like, "Well, he's a plumber." I'm like, "Girl, you're in debt. You're a financial liability." You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what the heck? Yeah. So I'm always like trades, and especially with the arts. The arts have been in the realm of academia for so long, but I think that's also breaking down too. There's so much private education now. That's what I do. I'm in that sphere of like, one-on-one teaching, private applied music education. You don't need a college to do that. And a lot of the research I do, I write. I am an active writer on historical pedagogical things for singing that would need the imprimatur, famous words, till coming out to
$10 words.
It's because you went to college.
Imprimatur, that you need like the stamp of academia, and I don't do that. I write about historical things, and I'm sort of an inconvenience to academia because I'm doing stuff that I write, like basically what I told you yesterday, Og, is like a peer-reviewed paper every week. And I put it out, footnotes, and I do research and all of that, and I'm like, that's stuff that people in academia do, and then they do it once a year, and I'm doing it every week.
So this woman, so I've been making these posts for the last couple of months just for fun, where I'll go find like some amazing Missouri real estate.
Oh, we love it.
And because they get tons of engagement, and like some of the houses are really cool, right? So I'll post like, why aren't you, what's stopping you from buying this $260,000 10-acre Amish?
Yeah, the Amish house.
The Amish ranch. Yeah, yesterday. And everybody's like, well, because it's in Missouri, blah, 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 blah. But one of the women reported, she says the reason why she didn't do it because she has $360,000 in student loan debt and $20,000 in credit card debt.
Oh my God.
Thanks for asking. How do you get $360,000 in student loan debt? Where did you go? Like double Harvard?
What is your degree?
Yeah, she a doctor.
Yeah. Like you would have to be like, I would think you'd have to be some kind of like physics doctor in physics or something like that,
unless
right?
you just stayed for like 10 years in academia. I mean, if you just were like, master's, bachelor's, doctoral degree. Gracious.
Yeah.
I think I'm still somewhat like a boomer. I value my degree very much. It's almost like my safety blanket, especially if it's a degree that you can get a job with. If it's in high demand. So it's like social work. I know there's always going to be jobs for social work, at least in the foreseeable future. Or like if you're a doctor, it's like, like medical people are going to be needed in the future. So those are safety things. So I think if I were to do it over, I would probably choose schools that were cheaper. I would probably do like the community college route for my gen ed classes, and then, maybe transfer to a university and, pay more when I needed to. But so I'd probably try to go a cheaper route so that I wouldn't get any debt. That's probably what I would recommend.
Going to do any kind of higher education, I would like maybe become an attorney, like a patent lawyer or something like that. Otherwise, I would just start a business. I would just find things that and I would sell. I would just use arbitrage, right? Find cheap things, sell them for higher price.
Oh yeah, I mean, we watch Shark Tank all the time, and these people who are starting businesses, I mean, they're like pharmacists. They have like all these other degrees,
but they all want to become because if they want to get rich. They got to sell product.
Right.
That's what they realize.
Their business has nothing to do with their degree most of the time.
Nothing. Also, I think we were saying, Og, when we were in the car and you were talking about, if you could do a business or what would you do? And I just sort of made this blanket statement and I said, solve rich people's problems.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like if you solve rich people's problems, you're going to make some money. If you're just working for like the middle class or you're not going to you're not going to work as much. You know what I mean? It's not going to work as much. But solve rich people's problems. You know, clean their yachts, clean their houses. You know, like solve the rich people's problems, and you'll make.
Well, I was actually because I watch educational videos about how to grow your business, your e-commerce business all the time, and I'm trying to grow For Liberty Shop into a real national brand and like the For Liberty network. And one of the gurus that I was listening to is saying that before you can sell cheap products to poor people like Walmart, before you can really make the big millions and billions in sales, you have to sell expensive things to rich people because rich people don't care about how much they spend. They don't care what it is. If you're solving a problem for them, it doesn't matter. $50, $500, just solve the problem. That's all they care about. Right. And I know that the people who are listening to the show are going to kind of like back up when I say like the people who purchase items from For Liberty Shop are rich people, but you have to understand that like if you are buying stuff from forlibertyshop.com, you probably don't think you're rich, but you are because you have to compare yourself to like the average, right?
The rest of society.
Compare yourself to the rest of society and the rest of the world too.
Most people have to shop at Dollar General to get their groceries.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So I mean, in essence, for example, like I don't think Andy will care that I single him out when I say like if you can afford to buy 4 boxes of Founding Flavors coffee this morning like you did, then like you're a pretty rich guy. Like, and so I'm solving Andy's problem. He wants really good coffee and he wants really good entertainment.
Yes.
So he can go to watch the Wake Up America show and go to For Liberty Shop and buy it. So I'm solving Andy's problems because what I hope to do one day is to not sell expensive coffee to rich people, but to sell cheap coffee to poor people.
Right.
Because that's how I'm going to get rich. Because right now my profit margins are small, but I want to get bigger profit margins.
But even Shark Tank, like those guys are selling to rich people. That's what I'm saying. Like those rich people are funding those people's products so that they can sell those products to, I hate to say this word, but poor people or people of median income, you know?
Yeah. So, and a lot of the products are for rich people. There was somebody who made a dog bed for humans. And this bed is so expensive.
Like people, poor people aren't buying that stuff.
They're not gonna buy
that. Literally a gigantic
dog bed.
Solving
rich people's problems.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Rich people are like, I want to sleep with my dog in a bed like theirs.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll spend $500 on a human-sized dog bed.
Exactly.
Lifestyles of the rich and stupid.
I love it. I love it.
Dad Bob Baboon reminds us that, hey, now I shop at Dollar General so that I can buy from ForLibertyShop.com.
There you go.
We appreciate that
as well.
That's true.
Listen, you don't want to get me started. You do not want to get me started on my absolute fandom for Aldi. And like, I'm obsessed. And when we were kids, Mom would take us to Aldi and I'd go, Mom, that's the poor people's store.
It was
and
now
that. I shop at the poor people's store all the time. And I love Aldi. I'm obsessed with Aldi.
Trader Joe's is the rich people Aldi because they're owned by the same company, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
And Whole Foods is the pretentious person's Trader Joe's.
I will not shop at Whole Foods. Whole Foods is just too expensive.
We used to call it Whole Paycheck. That was our nickname for it. Whole Paycheck.
Exactly.
That is very funny. That is very funny.
I don't know why they put Whole Foods in these impoverished areas. Like in downtown Detroit, they have a Whole Foods. I'm like, who can shop here?
Right.
Varagon RX joining us for the first time over on Rumble. Hey, Varagon says medical degree and tradesmen always have a job.
Yeah.
My husband and I have no college debt. I'm a pharmacist and husband is a plumber. See, that's why. See, you're gonna get a degree.
Yes.
So they've got both ends of the spectrum covered.
Trade school and medical. There
Trade
you go.
School and medical. Very good, Varagon. Very good.
Looking for a man in plumbing.
Plumbing.
Ha!
Yes.
That's a good one, Steffi. Let's give it up for Steffi. Very funny. Very funny. Looking for a man with plumbing. Ass crack.
Tool belt. 6'5".
Blue jeans. Number 3 on this list of things that boomers do that is not normal anymore. Being able to unplug from everything. I often just unplug from everything, turn off my phone, put it on silent, pour a glass of wine, read to my heart's content. I don't think kids today know how to do that. That's true. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, you don't.
No.
I mean, I keep my phone on silent when I'm when I'm just around the house. But now that I have a baby, I actually keep my phone on sound because I'm like, if I'm away from the house and Austin needs to tell me something, like I need to be able to be called if needed.
Yeah. Justin, are you able to unplug?
To a degree, yes, I can. But it is an addiction. I will say it is an addiction to be on my phone. It's an addiction. But you know what I was thinking about too really this morning is homework culture when it comes to the kids, because I think that we're teaching kids how to do that anyway by this homework culture. My, dad used to always say, Dad was the first person I ever heard to say that he didn't like homework, bringing work home with you, to unplug, right, from school.
Yeah.
Like, even from the time we're kids, it's like, we're going to have homework. It's like, I sit in a school all day for 7 hours and then I have to come home for another 2 hours and do homework.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm against homework just in general. Homework. I'm sorry. I know that's going to make me unpopular.
No, but, I hated it too. I never did my homework.
Oh, no. My niece, my 6-year-old niece just yesterday was saying she's not looking forward to school because she's going to have more homework this year than last year. Mm-hmm. And she's not looking forward to it.
No adult would allow themselves to do what kids have to go through for homework. No adult would be like, oh, sure, I'll take home 2 or 3 hours a night.
Right.
So I can't spend with my family or my kids or my dog or whatever. Yeah. No adult would do that. Or they'd be like, no, I'm not going to work in that job. I'm not doing that job.
Work-life balance. Hello.
The nurse handed me a worksheet for the baby to write down when she was feeding and when she was going to the bathroom to keep it to show the pediatrician. And I immediately just threw it away.
Work for you.
She's like, I have homework for you. I'm like, oh, good. Well, I'm definitely not doing it now. So,
and we're also not giving you a bed to sleep on. So do your homework and get no sleep here at the hospital.
I always had I always had great grades though, because Steffi was always like, you never did your homework, Austin, and you never had grades. I was like, well, sometimes I would get detention for not turning in my math homework in time or whatever, something like that. But for the rest of the time, I just did the work in class.
You're so smart.
Well, that's how it should be. That's how it should be.
Well, it's like,
that's why everybody should have study hall. You should have 1 hour of study hall a day or something.
Right.
And then all the kids can do their homework in study hall, go home, live their lives, have their after school activities, do their musicianship things, their band, their dancing, their practice, their football, whatever it is.
Jeez.
Exactly. Let kids have a life. This homework culture has got to go. Homework culture and tipping culture. I'm done with it.
Homework culture and tipping culture. Good. All right. Next on the list, things that were normal that are no longer normal. Just getting a job by walking in anywhere. Throughout my adult life, whenever I needed work, my dad continued suggesting that I just show up at an office and don't leave until they let you talk to a manager and hand them your resume yourself. Yep, I heard that a lot. Poor younger me tried this, and I wandered every business to find my first job, hearing back from exactly no one. Yeah, well, I'll never be able to get a job again just because of my social media history. So this is never going to happen.
You still walk into McDonald's and do an application and probably get a job.
I don't even think I could get hired at McDonald's. I'll be honest at this point.
You could run the robots.
At this point though, I would get canceled because somebody who hates me would go and call the manager and all that kind of stuff. I had conservatives that would get pissed off at me calling my bosses when I was on the radio here, trying to get me fired.
Amazing.
So,
when I first moved to Lawrence, Kansas, when I was in my graduate program, that was what I did maybe the first week or two that I was there. I did go around and I don't even think that I really had a resume of any merit, although I did work at Disney. Hey. But I would go to into a lot of the nice restaurants because I thought, well, maybe I can work as a waiter in some of these restaurants. So I'd go in and work, and I walked into Pier 1 Imports, which is where I got my job in grad school. I was working at Pier 1, or as we used to call it, Queer 1 Imports. But yeah, no, I mean, the idea that you just go in someplace. Nowadays, I'm like, I really ask myself, where do people get jobs? I have a student of mine. I'm like, where do you go to get a job? Especially with your skill set. That's one of the things I think is so scary. It's like this is with the degree thing. It's like, okay, I got my degree. Now, how do I get a job? And then it's like, I can't get a job. And I'm like, yikes.
Yeah. I once had a supervisor who said 90% of the jobs you get are because you know somebody. Mm-hmm. And the other 10% is just because you're lucky or have really great skills.
Well, I always said like if Ray Peck ever or somebody invited me to do a master class for high schoolers and things like that, how to get into media, like Austin, they wanted me to teach them how to go from Peculiar, Missouri to Fox News in New York. How would you do that? And I was like, the only way I was able to get a job in the industry that I was really trying to work in from college is to get to work in politics first, because I would have never gotten the job at Fox News if I didn't have political connections.
Right.
Like I got my political connections first. So if you want to get a job on TV, you need to go volunteer for a local congressman. That's what it is. You need to go volunteer for your local congressman or your local representative. You need to go make a good name for yourself. You need to work for free and not expect anything back at all, probably in the beginning. I sure did. Volunteered a lot of hours for Congressman Ron Paul and for, people that I was trying to get elected and all that stuff. And it wasn't until when I lived in New York the first time, because I lived there twice. Lived in New York the first time, I was a broke bitch, and I was working at FAO Schwartz at the toy store, wearing the toy soldier costume and opening the doors for people and saluting, riding a skateboard and waving a lightsaber and selling skateboards. And I sold.
I mean, you did get to hang out with Conan O'Brien, so I mean, like, come on, you had a little street cred there.
Yeah, well, I just happened to be standing there, so they grabbed me to put me on the show. So that was great.
And you were really cute in that video, by the way. That's like, you were looking cute in that video.
They chose you because you were cute. They wouldn't have chosen you if you were ugly.
Yeah, well, I was 75 pounds lighter and I had a lot more hair.
Yeah.
So anyways, but that was a dark time. That was a challenging time. Yes. In my career, because I was trying. Because here's the thing: I was running at the Castle Gates, trying to get into the industry directly. I auditioned. I got up at 4 a.m. every day, just like I do now. Went to auditions, got rejected, told I sucked, too fat, too ugly, too this, too that, too pale, too white, too poor, blah blah blah. Right? And I was like, reject, until finally, the thing that I was doing in my free time, in my off time, volunteering for Congressman Ron Paul, blew up. And somebody I got a phone call from Washington, D.C. Hey, Austin Petersen, we see what you're doing on this new YouTube platform. It's kind of exciting. Do you want to come work for the Libertarian National Committee in D.C.? And I'm like, yep, cashing out, moving to D.C., flew on next plane out of New York City. And I said, I'm never going back to New York unless I get my dream job and I can live alone. And so that means I'm never going back to New York. Well, 2 years later, I got my dream job and I lived alone in New York, and I went rags to riches, right? I went from being poor and broke to king of New York.
Wow.
And I think you hit on something really powerful, is that culture of walking in and getting a job, that's gone.
It is gone.
You didn't get it that way. But here, what I will say this is, like, I think with social media and with the YouTube and with writing or blogging, like what I do, you make your own job. You make your own job at the end of the day. I mean, you do. You kind of have to, and then you have to get enough sort of allure. Like, this is what's happening with actors. Like, I know because I'm in the arts, but like, actors will get on TikTok, and maybe they're not even landed actors. They're not like established performers, but they will get such a following on TikTok, and they get so many views on TikTok that they then become really appealing to theater companies who will say, oh yeah, we want to get this actor in our theater company because they have such, a pull and a draw for an audience. So the actor has created their own sort of career on a social media platform, which is intent now in getting them into theatrical work. But it wasn't like them doing the rounds of auditions, although they do that, I'm sure. But like, they're building this sort of thing because they've already got attention of eyeballs. So, if you're like, oh my God, I want to go see my TikTok star that I love on Broadway. Yeah. I mean, hello, that's ticket sales. That translates into ticket sales. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, for these days, if people are interested in getting a job, you need to network. You need to meet people in the industry that you want to work in, and you need to try and volunteer for them. Say, what can I do for you? I'd really love to learn from you. So do you have any internships available? Can I, get you coffee and things like that? And just kind of, hang around the office, answer your emails.
Get your dry cleaning.
Yeah, get your dry cleaning. All of that stuff, because again, it's like, what is that? Devil Wears Prada.
Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah.
Yes, and it very much is like that, because if you can distinguish yourself by an example, set an excellent example of what you can do for someone doing something as simple as dry cleaning. Here's the thing. If you can demonstrate excellence in one field, most of the times employers recognize that can apply to something else, because most of the time, most of the jobs that you do, everybody has to learn them somehow. You don't have to have some advanced physics degree to go in and do whatever it is, right? Not everybody's going to go work for Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or something like that and need to be a rocket scientist. You're just going to need to be able to be excellent at something. And if you demonstrate that you're excellent and punctual, can do this one thing for this person, they might say, well, you know what, have you considered, why don't you go take, Jamonte for the fall fashion line and, see if you can help him, put that together or something like that, put together his workbook. And then all of a sudden you're working with someone that you've wanted to work with your entire career. So
yeah, I actually had that happen because for a while I would volunteer at different farms because I wanted to learn how to be a farmer as a suburban girl. And so I volunteered at this one farm for so long that they actually offered me a job without me even applying. And I actually turned it down because I was like, I wouldn't be able to support myself, but I'm so flattered. So yeah, if you put in enough time and you stick around, they're going to see you're a good worker and they're going to want you.
Yeah, it's just people. It's not the old economy anymore. It's not just show up to the factory and drop an application and say I'm not going anywhere until you give me a job. You see, I want a job with good wages, and I'm not going home until it happens. It's just not how it works. All right, next on the list that Justin brought to us, this gift he gave. Not talking about any negative emotions. They could handle me being happy, but anytime I was sad, upset, depressed, they didn't want to see it or deal with it. My mom would even say, what the hell do you have to be so upset about? I don't know. I mean, Justin, you can identify with this. You can identify with this.
This is me. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was the first child, so I had to be the I was the, what do they call it, the beta testing? I was the beta tested child. Yes. But no, Mom would, anytime negative emotions would happen with me, anger, especially anger, things like that. Mom just was like, oh, this isn't the good Justin. She's like, where's the good Justin? And so then, of course, I'd run into the other room and I'd give myself a little self-imposed timeout. And then I would come back into the room and be like, here's the good Justin.
Oh,
so I learned from a very early age, feelings are like treasures. So bury them.
There you go. I should say that in my therapy. Bury your feelings just like a treasure.
Your feelings are like treasure. Bury them.
Oh my goodness. You need a poster that says that on your wall.
Oh, that actually would be a really good t-shirt.
Yes.
We should throw that on our shirt later. Okay, we'll do that, Justin. All right, cool. Thanks for that. All right. Wow. I don't identify with that so much. I never really had that feeling of someone like not letting me show negative emotions. So
yeah, I was allowed to cry and complain and all sorts of things.
Here's
I
one
could
that
be happy. That was the one of, I mean, Mom liked it when I was happy. So I learned as a young kid to just be happy all the time.
Sure.
I'm always happy.
This next one, being at least, you still struggle with this one, Stephanie. And I'm always like, Stephanie, we don't have to be 4 hours early to the airport.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So that's the thing. Being at least 4 hours early to the airport, like the parents' generation.
Oh, yes.
Like your mother is very much like, I have to be 4 hours early to the airport. It's like 3 or 2 or whatever. Right. Like but it's like, I don't feel the need to be that early to the airport.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's like a city thing, because in the Detroit airport, sometimes there are really long lines, whereas here in Missouri, there's no line.
Yeah, it can be city.
I'm TSA pre-check, baby. TSA pre-check. I'm like, get out of my way, you plebeians. I have the TSA pre-check. It's amazing. I don't even have to take off my shoes.
Aww.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But you do have to be 2 hours for international, I think, right?
Isn't it like 2 hours for? We were certainly on
it's
time.
Like 3 for Japan. Yeah. So
yeah.
But otherwise, like I like to just coast through the security. Walk up to the gate, and then it's like 10 or 15 minutes until boarding begins.
Yeah.
He's the one that will like forget his thermos is in his backpack and it has like coffee in it, and then he's stopped at the TSA. Yeah, he makes my heart pound when we're just coasting.
Just not in a rush. They'll sometimes, it's like I've only ever missed a flight once, but that was because it was an international flight and had to be 3 hours early, so it was a pain in the butt. But anyways. Next item on this list of things that boomers do that were normal that are no longer normal: fat shaming.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, back in the day.
Back in the day, if you were fat, you got shamed for it, you got picked on for it, you got beat up for it. And I don't necessarily
Jenny Craig.
I don't know that you should necessarily be tortured or bullied or beat up, but I do think that of the few times that in my life that people have, gently reminded me that I've gained weight or that I've gained too much weight, were definitely good. And it was wise. I think to some extent, like we've gone too far in the other way, the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
So we're celebrating being fat.
Yeah.
I saw that there's a convention called FatCon.
Oh, geez.
And they're talking about bodily acceptance and things like that. Yeah. Like I would prefer to live in a culture. I would prefer, if I had to be at one of the other two extremes, I'd rather be in the fat shaming culture. Honestly.
I kind of agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it's always a sign of something that's, what's happening, especially if it's like someone who's gained the weight and I'm like, something's happening going on. Is it stress? Is it, you know, what's happening?
I'm just thinking about it with Hazel. You know, it's like if she was starting to get a little chubby or something, it's like, would we say something to her? I mean, we're going to feed her really good food anyway, so hopefully she wouldn't get there.
If she's fat, it's our fault.
Right.
If she gets fat, that is our responsibility to police her eating habits.
Absolutely.
That is when you're under a certain age, that is all the parents, because they don't have a choice what they eat.
And food has never been so, I mean, let's think about what Grandma Hazel ate in the 20s and 30s. I mean, the access and the kinds of foods that are available today that are fattening. I mean, like, we're all behind the, I mean, look, it's insane how fattening almost all modern food is today. That's not like, you know, around the outside perimeter of the grocery store. I mean, chips and crackers and donuts and you know, the carbohydrates and things and the corn syrup. Oh my God, it's like a war against all of us to not be putting on weight, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Now, next item on the list. Showing blind obedience towards elders and authorities.
Oh, yes.
It used to be that people got respect just for the fact that they were older. Now we kind of have, you know, more of a culture of respect is a little bit more. Respect is given if it's given to some extent. Justin, your thoughts?
No, I think definitely that culture has flattened in that way. You know, especially after the Pando. You know, I think the respect for like experts and the respect for people that are in positions of authority, it's like, no, you know, you're not better than anybody else. And that sort of natural skepticism, I think, is actually a good thing. You know, I don't think people, like we've said, people don't get respect, they earn it. And, you know, when you work in an office, like I used to work in an office, and you'd have people that had been in their jobs for 35 years. It's like, she's been in her job for 35 years. And I go, yeah, and she's sucked for 34. So it's like, you know, it's like, I don't care. Like, you're not good at something, you're not good at it. And just because should we show deference and kindness to older people? Of course. I mean, on the bus or whatever. But like, but I think the important thing here is blind obedience. Like, I'm just going to do what you say, you cranky old bitch. I'm not going to do that.
Right. No, exactly. And I think that's where like a lot of the Karen culture comes from.
Yeah.
Is that a lot of like those like older people who are used to just getting whatever they want because they're older or something like that. They demand respect because they're older. They're not getting it and they're having these public freakouts. And it's kind of like, no, you're going to get the respect that you deserve based on how you treat other people. Did I send you that meme, Justin, that reel that showed like those boomers and they're all like breaking out of the gate like they're on like a horse, like they're horses at a horse race, and they're like they were having a race, and and they're all these like old people like waddling and they're like racing and stuff like that. It was like an actual real video of them like running and stuff like that, and they're all like falling all over in the track and stuff like that because they're old and fat and stuff. But the caption for it was boomers getting out of church racing to be boomers racing to get out of church to be the first ones to make a waitress cry at lunch.
Yeah, and not tip.
And not tip them. Yes.
Austin, you used to tell me that. You said when you worked in Springfield, you said that on the Sunday crowds, the worst tippers and the meanest customers were the oldest customers in the restaurant.
When we used to dread Sundays when church would get out, because the older crowd would get out of church and they would, you know, they get done praising Jesus with their mouth. And then they'd come and they'd grab the old slave bull whip and start cracking it for us at lunch to like, you know, and scream at us and just like, unbelievable. And then once it was all over and we had served their humongous family a full meal and have given them impeccable service, they would just leave. They wouldn't tip us at all.
Oh, that's terrible.
At all, right? It's like,
wow.
It was.
I have a funny tipping
painful.
story. I have a funny tipping story. Uncle Bobby, our mother's brother, used to work as a waiter, I think, when he was at KU. And I think Mom told me that a congressman or some person of state came into Uncle Bobby's restaurant. And I think he gave Bobby like the most paltry tip that you can even imagine. I think it was like 25 cents. I mean, it was nothing. It was horrible. And Bobby, because Bobby was kind of a badass, he picked up the tip off of the table and he went over to the congressman and he gave it back to him and he said, "I think you need this more than I do."
What?
I was like, oh.
Uncle Bobby really was a badass.
Good for him.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, oh gosh, wow, it's already over. I was just going to say, yeah, I think this newer generation, we don't respect our parents as much as we once did. You know, people can tell their parents off, say mean things to them, whereas back in the day, it's like, you do not speak back to your parents.
Oh, yeah.
It's 9 a.m., Justin. Do you know where your children are?
Yes.
She's at home. We love you, brother. This was a great show. Thank you so much for helping us out, Justin, on a Friday.
Oh, it was a fun chat. I like that.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say?
Continue to get better, you know. I mean, you know, just go easy and stay hydrated and rest as much as you can.
I'm going to try and get some rest this weekend. I got to pump out a couple articles today, see if I can get it done. Try and catch up.
Stephanie's got to pump some things
I know.
too.
I was like, are you going to pump out some breast milk?
She's going to pump some breast milk, and I'm going to pump out some content so I can catch up.
Everyone's pumping. We're all pumping.
Yeah,
pumping.
I have my lactation consultant's appointment this afternoon.
She pumps breast milk, and I pump cash.
Love it. Love it.
Great to see you, Justin. Love you very much. Looking forward to seeing you again next week. Anything else you want to say real quick before we go?
Follow me on my Substack, Justin Peterson at .substack.com. And I'm on Twitter at Justin J. Peterson. But I usually just retweet people. You know, I'm hanging out in the cultural world. I'm listening to what everybody else has to say. So great to be here.
Love you, brother.
Love you too.
See you next week. Give him a round of applause for JP.
Hey.
All right, Stephanie. Today was a pretty good show.
It was. It went by really fast. Did we have to advertise gold today? I know you started advertising it randomly, but do we do an ad for it?
Let's do it. Do you want to text people where to text if they're interested in buying gold and silver?
50505.
That's right.
Text Liberty to 50505. You know, I put out actually a really popular meme on your page with our marketing, and it was a libertarian, and it had two different options. One, do you go crypto, or two, do you go gold? And that was a very popular meme. And so a lot of people are going gold. I choose gold myself because it's more stable than crypto.
If you see instability in the financial markets, the stock market, and the crypto market.
We had that this week.
And you're interested in finding out more about how to invest in gold and silver, here goes my voice. Text the word Liberty to 50505. Again, text the word Liberty to 50505. They'll send you a free gold and silver information packet, and they won't bug you or spam you or send you a bunch of crazy requests or things like that. Okay, Stephanie, anything else you want to say before we go?
No, just be free, everyone.
Love you, Steffi.
Love you.
Love you guys. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. Sorry I was out. Hopefully next Monday I'll be feeling 100% again, and you'll get all of AP. All of me loves all of you. Yes. We'll see you guys on Monday. Love you guys. Take care. If you haven't clicked that like button, don't forget to click that and visit the Grift Shop on the way out, forlibertyshop.com. Get yourself a box of coffee. See you guys Monday.
The Cantina crew, this is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been. Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything. And what is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation. Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone